Okay, good morning everybody. We're going to go straight to it. We're learning the month of Kislev sponsored by the Silver family, Leilui Nishmas Bas Yefega Bas Yisrael, the Polsteins, Leilui Nishmas Frida Sem Bas Yitzchak, also Leilui Nishmas Hayel Kodesh Yeshua Aaron Tuvia Ben David Zusha, but the Deutsches in appreciation of all of our holy Chayalim and the hope for a speedy return for our Chatufim, and also for the Refuah Shlema of Nesia Chaya Bas Chana, a baby that needs a big Refuah Shlema. Okay, pages for those that need are over here. Now we're going to try to do the impossible, which is to continue from last week, even to continue from last week. But we'll do as good as we can. We began learning last week an incredible teaching. Incredible teaching, Rebbe Nachman's, the second teaching in Tinyana, in the second piece of Likutei Moharan, which begins, the beginning of it is about Chanukah, then it's very, very long and very, contains many, many different topics, What we're going to try to do today is actually going to jump to the end where Chanukah comes in again, but first, I'll have to do a quick recap of what we learned last week, because otherwise, even with the recap, it's going to be very difficult to really get a flow. But we'll try to do as good as we can. This is spare? Yeah. We can keep this at the end for whoever needs a page. Okay. So we'll try to do as best as we can. Let's start from the beginning. The beginning of this teaching told us like this. And it's a beautiful schus to have started this before Chanukah, and I'll continue this on the first day of Chanukah, the first day of this glorious Yantiv, which is all about Mashiach. It's all about the light of La'asid Lava, the light that we will feel so at home with when that's the only thing that permeates the whole world. So we began by saying that the Chanukah are days of thanksgiving, days of saying thank you. We spoke about the two types of meaning, the two meanings of the word thank you. Of Hodאה, and we spoke about how Chanukah is really all about what the next world is going to be like, Sha'ashua Olam Haba, a delight of the world to come, which is the world to come will be filled and permeated with Das Hashem. The more you know somebody, the more you feel closer to them. That's how it is in this world with people. The closer you are to someone, the more you know them, the closer you are to them. So too with the Ribbon Shleim, the more that we know HaKadosh Baruch Hu, then the closer we feel to Him. But in this world, we're always going through all these dividing screens and all these preventions, all these things, all these hastaras, all these concealments that kind of prevent closeness, because this is the game called this world. But the next world, Olam Haba, is all about just Das Elokim, knowledge of God, which would make me essentially feel simply close. And as the Rebbe brought down from the Gemara says, that all the korbanos in the future will be mevutal, will be null, will be cancelled out, besides the korban toda, which means that if that's all that's left in the world to come, if I want to get a taste of what the world to come is all about, what should I plug into right now? What does it mean to give thanks? We spoke about the Mizmor Tehillim, the Kapitel Tehillim, that spoke about the 4 different types of people that have to say Hagomel, that have to say thank you. And we also explained that that's why on Shabbos the Baal Shem Tov instituted that right before Mincha and Erev Shabbos, a person says that Mizmor Tehillim, Kuf Zayin 107. And in that Mizmor Tehillim, it speaks about all those types of people that went through tsaras, that there was a tsara, and they overcame it. And that likened to our analogy of being in this world, that if I get through a week and I reach Shabbos, that's a bechina of also saying Hagomel, that I made it through a week in this world, because there's so much tzaras during the week, and then Shabbos comes and I'm able to say thank you. We spoke about that last time. I'm just recapping more. We also spoke about halacha. Halacha is the bechina of Toda. Halacha, the world of halacha, which we spoke about at great length, especially someone that's zochet to have a chidush in Dvar Halacha, is a bechina of the Sha'ashua of Olam Haba, the delight of the next world. Like we mentioned, Kol Hashona Halachos B'chol Yom, Muftach Lo Shu Ben Olam Haba. Anyone that learns Halacha, goes over Halacha every day, it's promised and guaranteed to them that they are a Ben Olam Haba. because Olam Haba, the delight of the world to come, is all about the topics that we spoke about before. Olam Haba, Chesed, halacha, all different things we spoke about.
Is that just not halacha Shabbos? That's all halacha?
Everything. Everything. We also spoke about the concept of, I guess, we began doing this with what happens with a person that goes through a tzara. We described that person that goes through a very big distress. What happens to them physically is that the blood, remember we were speaking about the blood rushing up to the area of the heart and hovering over the heart. Therefore, your heart starts pounding. It's because all the blood in your body goes and what was the word we said for shotfim? Flooded, thank you. Not overflow. Floods the heart. And therefore causes such distress. But afterwards, and Rebbe Nachman likened the heart to the tzaddik, that when there's tzaras in a certain place, people go and seek counsel and wisdom from the tzaddik who's likened to the heart. And then once that counsel and advice is received by all those that come to the tzaddik in a time of distress, is received, then what ends up happening? Everyone starts going back to their places. And that's called tahaluchot hadamim. That means the walking back of all the blood back into each place that it belongs. Likened to the concept of halacha, of walking, of going back. That's what we said last time. I know this is, to understand all this much better, we have to, if you weren't here, then you have to go back and listen to last week's shir. But he explained that why does your heart pound so much? That's because all the blood is rushing to it. And there's a sense of tremendous, the right word is just chilur ada, there's so much stress, there's so much pain. But when it goes back, everyone can then say toda, everyone can say thank you, that they're going back to the place where it came from. And therefore, he says, like in the bottom of the page that you have, the second to bottom line, the concept of gratitude that comes after one comes out of pain and distress is called halacha. Saying thank you is basically halacha. Why? Al shem ta'aluchot hadamim she'olchim kaseder ksheyotzin mehatzara. Now, if you have the pages, turn the page. Now, this is where we stopped last time. And we're going to do a few more lines from the continuation of the spot that we stopped last time in your Likutei Moharan, which is what I wanted to get to last week, but it was everything, Baruch Hashem, took longer because we were going deep into the Inyan. You see where it says Os Gimel? The page behind you? Not last week's page, the page I gave out today. Okay? Umizeh ba holada. Rebbe Nachman is going to describe childbirth now. Umizeh ba holada benakel, meaning this is how there's even a possibility for birth to take place. Ki, bisha'a she'isha korat leiled, yarchotea mitztanenot. This is interesting. The Gemara Sota says, Paro told the midwives, listen, right before, you remember, but he told the midwives to take Nebuch with the babies, and he told them to get rid of them, and he said there's a siman for this. What's the siman? What's the sign that a woman's about to give birth? He says, Yarchea mitztanenot, the thighs become cold. Why is this? Because the blood starts running up towards the area of the womb, which the Rebbe will explain right now. How Rebbe Nachman was in touch with this is like one of the mysteries of Rebbe Nachman. His genius in anatomy is Pele. It's a wonder. It's a wonder for two reasons. One is that he's a young, in this situation, here he's 36 years old, giving over this Torah in Shabbos Chanukah 1808. And for the time where science was at his time, where bichlal, more medical knowledge, where it was at this time, he was so mitkadem, it's unbelievable. Ve'al yedei zeh na'asa ha'olada. After this takes place by a woman, then birth takes place. Ki, hadamim olin lemala. The blood flows up. Ve'azai nitcha kamakom sham. And then there's pressure on the area of the womb. Ve'azai hem dochim et avlad lachutz. And they push out the fetus because there's such pressure in the area where the blood rushed up to. And then what happens after the birth takes place? ואחר כך חוזרים הדמים למקומם. Then all the blood that rushed up starts going back to its place, connecting to what we learned last time about what we just mentioned now, taluchot hadamim, that the blood starts walking back, going back to its right place. למקומם, שזה בחינת תודה הלכה, שהוא בחינת תהלוכות הדמים שחוזרים ללך כסדר כנ"ל. That everything goes back into its place. Beseder. Now, what's the context of this lesson? If this is a shir on Rebbe Nachman's life in light with the Torah, even though it's beautiful that we get to learn this Torah on Chanukah, just a little bit of a context. We mentioned it briefly before last week, but to understand why he's talking about this now and why he's going to talk about what he's going to talk about now, I just want to share the following. And this is brought down also in Sichas Haran Kuf Nun Zayin, I believe, 157 in Rebbe Nachman's wisdom. Rebbe Nachman goes, he contracts tuberculosis the summer before this Torah was given, a year and a half before that. And he travels to a place that was known as Lamberg, which is now known as Lvov. It keeps on going back, one of these places that have a lot of different names. And Rebbe Nachman, from that time on, as you'll see in Likutei Moharan, where you'll be able to date the teachings, he's speaking about refuah all the time. And he was giving over a lot of secrets. When he came back from the treatment, he was giving over a lot of secrets about healing. And he said, it should have been that the Torah that I was giving over should have brought me a full, complete healing. With all the secrets of Torah, all the secrets of healing I was giving over. Elamai, this is a little hard to understand. The problem is that the faith amongst those that were receiving these Torahs were weak. If those that were receiving these teachings, their faith in the Torah that I was saying was very strong, it seems that there could have been a complete healing for the Rebbe, but the Torahs here were so deep, and also they were all in a state of tzara. What was going on? He went for treatment. He comes back for treatment. While he's gone, the Hasidim are in complete distress. So they come to the tzaddik, to the heart, and they themselves, Rebbe Nachman is basically saying, his Hasidim themselves were in this teaching, they're the blood that comes and floods the heart and floods the Rebbe. Now that he's back, now that he came back and he started giving teachings over again, they're able to go back into the Hasidim, like the blood, are able to then go back to their proper places, thus bringing out also new Torahs, because a birth happened. More and more teachings about healing came into the world. Rebbe Nachman is describing what's happening to him in his life over here. The blood flows up. I don't know what the analogy here is, the thigh is getting cold in this context of a Rebbe. But what I do know is that teachings were coming out. More and more Torah was coming out, bringing more holada, chidushay Torah. Someone called me last week after the shir and said, how could it be that someone can be mechadesh and halacha? We have a lot Baal Tosif. We don't add on to halachas, right? So I was thinking about that question all week, and what I think it means over here, and the pnimius of it, is that Rebbe Nachman gave chidushim in halacha. Really? Show me in the Shulchan Aruch where he gave a chidush. He gave a chidush in the ability to leilech, to walk back to the place that you fled from in distress. Rebbe Nachman was mechadesh in halacha, giving you chidushim and calming you down with the Torahs that were coming down. How do I bring you back to the place that you belong? That's maybe the deeper concept of chidushim in halacha. The interesting thing here, though, is that Rebbe Nachman's medical condition, the danger of it was not the heart. What was it? The lungs. Now, there are a lot of teachings of Rebbe Nachman on breath, on breathing, and specifically about the lungs as well. Now, if you go in Likutei Moharan, and if you have the Sefer, you go to the end of the teaching, Rebbe Nachman now connects this whole thing back to the functioning of both the re'ah, the lung, and the heart. In the page you have in front of you, it's right. I put it right over here. The words are, if you have a Likutei Moharan, u'b'sha'a she'alev b'tzara. It's the end. It's mamash towards the end. You'll see it. U'b'sha'a she'alev b'tzara. Let me see if I can find it really fast in here. It's after chet. It doesn't. I don't even think it has its own or tet. Maybe try tet. Likutei Moharan Tinyana base. Try tet. Okay, so let's go back inside. Esther, you found it? Okay. Anyone else have a sefer here? You all learning? You find it? Ubesha'a she'alev betzara. Yeah. Okay. In the middle of tet? Okay. You have it? Okay, great. Yofi. Now listen to this. Ubesha'a she'alev betzara. Gam hare'a betzara. You know what happens while the heart is in distress? The lung is also in distress. Now, why is that? Huh? I mean, everything's connected, but like, why dafka would you?
Same area of the body.
I mean, the blood goes from the lungs and back to the
Right, and if your lungs aren't working properly, you're not getting
The blood flow.
and the oxygen to where it needs to be.
So look what the Rebbe says here now. And again, he's literally speaking about himself. He's just not saying, and this is what's happening to me right now, but this is what's going on. Ubesha'a she'alev betzara, gam hare'a betzara. Ki hare'a kiyum haguf. The lungs keep the body basically functioning. Ki hare'a mekayemet halecha levana. Umamshechet halachluchit laguf. What's lecha levana? Phlegm. And it draws down lachluchit. What's lachluchit? Moisture into the body. Ki aguf yesh lo tnuot. The body has all these different movements. Shehem meyabshin et aguf. They dehydrate the body. Ki atnuot meyabshin. If we just kept on moving all the time without something else taking place that has to do with moisture, the body would dehydrate, Rebbe Nachman says. Valken, ikar hakiyum al yedei hare'ah. So the ikar kiyum of the body is through the lungs, shemamshechet lachluchit, which draws down moisture. Uchsha'alev, now he's going to go back to what he said earlier. Uchsha'alev betzara, and when the heart's in distress, she'az hadamim olin veshotfin alalev, then the blood comes up and floods the heart. Ve'azai halev dofek bitfikot gdolot, the heart starts pounding. Azai hare'a menashevet neshivot gdolot. What happens to you when your heart starts pumping really fast? What do you have to start doing to calm it down?
You have to breathe differently.
You have to start breathing differently. Now, what happens every time you breathe in, like a more deeper breath, according to this?
getting more moisture on the body.
You're getting more moisture on the body, nachon? Look what he says here. Meaning in the beginning, before, when he's just like this, and you can't even catch your breath, and it's just the breath you're thinking about, chas v'shalom, you're in it's a panic. It's a matzav mesubach. But then Rebbe Nachman says, v'shemen, this is the key. V'shemen hu refu'ah lehare'ah. Oil is a refuah for the lung that goes into distress. What oil is Rebbe Nachman speaking about over here? Huh? Well, he's connecting it to Chanukah, of course, but what type of oil is the Rebbe speaking about? Does he saying you have to start drinking oil? Or smearing oil on your area of your lungs? Natural oils, how are they produced? Through the breath, which creates moisture, which acts against the dehydration. Everyone's with him? I'm trying to be with him also, but I just want to make sure this is clear. Shemen, the natural oil that's produced in the body, is the refuah itself for the lungs. But how does that natural oil get produced? By a certain type of breath that wasn't there before. Now Rebbe Nachman is going to connect all of this, like, basically, Moshe Omrim Ha'olam, he says, like the Welt says, like the world of medicine says, Ki Hashemen melachlech, that the oil basically brings down moisture. Hainu bechinat Hashemen hanal, shehu bechinat tikun hatzara. Now, in order to understand what he just said right now, we would have had to spend 2 weeks on a piece of the teaching in here. where Rebbe Nachman explains how oil is connected to wisdom. Shlach orcha va'amitcha. It's a long teaching, but it's brought down much shorter in Sichas Haran. How oil is a remez lechochma. When oil, something about the oil has the ability for a person to remember what they're here in this world to do, where to flee from, where not to flee from, putting everything in its place. It's almost as if these natural oils that are produced by the lungs are a reminder to the body how to function properly in a healthy manner. So when a person's in a tzara, when you're in a place of distress, how does the oil do? How does a person get out of it?
By slowing their breath.
Which then creates.
Lubrication and
Now go to the analogy of Rebbe Nachman and his Talmidim. When the Hasidim are in distress, where do they go to? The Rebbe, who's the heart, which is very much connected to the lungs. What does the Rebbe give to the Hasidim in order to calm them down? Chochma. He gives them shemen, in order for them to know how to go back to the place where they came from in a calmly and orderly manner. Again, it's much more extensive than just quoting this which is alluding to something in the middle of the teaching. But for now, I just want to make sure that's explainable, which is obviously how Rebbe Nachman ties this whole thing to Chanukah. Chanukah is all about giving thanks. When do I give thanks? When I'm after a tzara, I come out of a tzara, I give thanks. But I can't forget for a second how I got out of the tzaras. And that happens to us all the time. If we would, what's the whole inyan of giving thanks, of saying Birkas HaGomel? Don't forget, you were in distress. Life was nuts. The problem we have is that, Baruch Hashem, we get out of our own jails all the time. And we keep on going back to them. But what's one of the functions, how could it be that we just move on in life? Rebbe Nachman says you have to make a point out of remembering what caused you to get out of the tzara. And the more that I remember this, there's something in me, the way my body ticks, the way my brain thinks, it'll be a healthier path of the functioning of my body if I remember how that I was in tzaras and I got out of tzaras as well. Rebbe Nachman is basically saying here the body will act in a healthier manner. Thus, how do we see this in our lives? Things that once made us tremble. Certain things in life that once made us tremble and shake. Certain things in life made our heart pound really, really hard. And that was very real. But we were aware of the process we went through while we got healed. If I remember it and I give thanks over it, it could be, and hopefully it will be, that the next time the trigger is there that caused me to go through what I just went through, won't cause that. Why? Because I remember. There was a talucha, there was a whole parade here of blood, went up, crazy, down. But if I go through it in the process that Rebbe Nachman is speaking about, there will be a holada, a birth of da'at will come to the world, thus saving me from going into states of distress in the future. And the body will function in a healthier manner. It's unbelievable.
It's cognitive behavior therapy.
Well, that's cutting it down really.
Yeah,
but
that's, people pay a lot of money to.
or they can go to Likutei Moharan Tinyana, yeah. Do you see how brilliant this world of Rebbe Nachman is? We're talking about
1880.
we're talking like we're 1808 Shabbos Chanukah is giving over these Torahs on Shabbos Chanukah. What's so mind-blowing about this to me is that Rebbe Nachman is speaking to me. He's speaking to you. I mean, how many things in life that have caused us to shake? Literally, the heart starts pounding. And it really feels like we are in a state of absolute trauma and like it's the end of the world. We've been there. All of us have been there. Now, granted, we've had some legitimate reasons to feel like that the last year and a half. But forget about the last year and a half. It's as if only the last year and a half people have been triggered. Only the last year and a half people felt their heart starting to pump really, beat really fast. No. It's funny how the heart pumping fast, you're more aware of. The moisture being produced in the lungs is something that's happening completely subconsciously. You're not aware of that. You can only be more aware of it if you think about it while you go into a state of healthier breathing, and then you start thinking about what this is actually doing. That's no moisture. But when the heart starts to calm down and then you're able to work on your breath in a proper way, then you could be more aware of the health that's taking place in your body, which brings you to a place of saying to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, thank you. Yes?
I hope this doesn't take too long, but I have to share something, okay? Last night, my 17-year-old daughter was driving in the car, and she picked up a trim piece in the frat, and all of a sudden, the bitachon of a frat cut right in front of her, immediately. And she went into a panic. You don't understand. It's like, I'm telling you, this is Min Hashemayim, everything. She went into like a panic mode, and the bitachon pulled out the trim piece because he had a knife on him. Okay?
Oh my gosh.
I ran to the scene. I helped my daughter. We got home. Everything was okay. And a whole discussion went on in the house about should we say a gomel on the Shabbat or not. And I said, I'll ask Rav Shlomo Katz tomorrow morning.
Wait.
This is the shear that you're giving over.
Wait a second. There was a yid?
Yes. It's literally, it happened last. I'm literally, my body. My body is going through what you just experienced. I felt my heart pumping, my stomach, like everything. You understand everything you just said. I just felt in my body. And this is a discussion that we had yesterday in the house.
Well, first of all, Baruch, thank you, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that everyone's okay. Like, mamash.
I'm so thankful to be so was there.
And thank you for them as well. How in the world did they tell? This is a whole story.
There was a fight that went on someplace. There were two guys, and young, I don't know, 17, 18, 19, I don't know how old they were. They both had knives, and they were high. And the bitachon guy saw that one of them left the scene, and he saw him get into my daughter's car. And he went and he stopped the car right in front of her. She just last week was able to start driving alone at night. And this is what I'm blown away that this is the shir that we're having today.
We all need to take a few deep breaths.
Yeah, I feel like.
It's unbelievable.
Wow.
She knows now not to stop. Do you understand? I think this is the whole discussion we had last night in the house. Is do you say I'll go all over this, or do you not say go all over this? And I just got my answer. Thank you.
Oh my God! Wow.
Even a su'uda, hodea.
Yeah, I would add in a few. Yeah, next year breakfast. No, yeah. No, this is. Wow. Thank you, Kadosh Baruch Hu. No. I'm glad you did. If this is an example, that if you would have come and knocked on the office after Shir and said, I have to tell you something, I'd get mad that you didn't say it during Shir. That happens often, by the way. Wow. Thank God. I can't believe it, but I can.
She's fine. I told her, you have to take the car to school today. You have to get back into the car and drive.
Yeah.
Which is why you guys are going to give me right now.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, wow. Okay, there should be a zgula for all those other people that are going through tsaras in life. There should be atzala. There should be atzala for them. Yeah.
Okay, on that note, if you would be upset afterwards of not mentioning it, I want to put in a plug for the Tuesday morning shir, because this is actually what we're talking about.
You're learning this piece in
No,
Likud?
not this piece, but the concept of rewiring the way we react to things and using the body and breathing and movement and these kinds of things to get back to react to be able to have the space to respond differently to events.
Beautiful. Absolutely. Yofi. Okay, so now go back into the teaching. Now Be'ezrat Hashem, we're going to hopefully just get a lot of koyach from everything we just heard, and now and finish the piece that we chose to learn as strong as possible. You see, I just want to just explain that what we just heard brings more it's a new birth. You birth something into the world after this rush of emotions and the blood flow does what it does, and the lungs produce the moisture that it does. You're actually bringing a new concept, you're bringing a new holadah into the world. When it comes to just to giving a child, that's an easy way of looking at, there's something new in the world, because there's a new physical entity. So it's easy to connect to the Indian of chidush, because there is a chidush, it's right there in front of you. But to believe that there's a chidush in da'at, that's where emunah comes in. To really believe that when you experience something in such a profound and in this example, such an intense manner, the point isn't just to say thank you, but it's to say thank you in a way to remember how my body functions and to bring a new area of that of trusting Vani eftach bach. Vani eftach bach. Vani bechazdecha batachti. So therefore, as the Rebbe is going to continue now, he's going to explain that when the heart's in distress, the whole body feels it. When the tzaddik's in distress, all the neshamas that are connected to that tzaddik are in distress as well. And you've seen there during different periods in time that Am Yisrael felt they were going through a whole ma'arbolet. How do you say ma'arbolet? A whole, like a... Yeah, but it's like there's a volcano erupting inside, and it's because that the heart of the people was going through something distressful. Elsewhere in Likutei Moharan, Rebbe Nachman, hopefully we'll get to learn this teaching as well, is that every single person holds within them a bechina of malchus, which means you have memshala, you have governance over other people, not in a bad way. It's just neshamas that are like, they're leaves on your branch. Some people have a lot, some people have little. Sometimes it's revealed, sometimes it's concealed. It's a very deep teaching. So when it comes to the tzaddik, though, the heart from the body, what else? What part of the body isn't shayach to the heart? What part of the body does the heart not have melucha over? So this is interesting. This is really machlokas Chabad Breslov to a certain extent.
Extremities?
The shaila of the intellect, of the mind. Yeah, this is where it gets very, very interesting. But over here...
It's been proven there's more energy, 40% more energy in the heart, in waves, and energy waves, and in the head. So it's scientifically.
But we don't,
No,
we
I'm
could
just
say
saying that
scientifically.
It really is true that there is.
Well, so this is not, I didn't make this up, but I just told you, this is basically a very long conversation that's been going on for many, many years. But over here, Rebbe Nachman's going to go back again now to the beginning when the heart's in distress, when the tzaddik's in distress. Ubitchila. You see the word? Ubitchila? Kshat tzaddik b'tzar u'b'tzara. In the beginning, when the tzaddik is in a place of pain and distress. Kama v'kama neshamot שבעולם הזה ועולם הבא מקוננים ומתאבלים על צערו. Plenty of souls in this world and souls that aren't in this world are crying over the pain of the tzaddik. וגם השכינה מקומנת. Even the Shechina itself is crying over the pain that the tzaddik has to go through. כי אפילו על דמים של רשעים השכינה מקוננת. The Shechina also cries over blood spilled, that blood that's in distress by Rishaim. Kal v'chomer al daman shel tzadikim, all the more so when a tzaddik goes through distress. כמו שאמרו רבותינו זיכרונם לברכה, אבל כשזוכה לרפואה, but when there's healing that comes down, אזי מתנחמים כולם. Everyone is consoled. ונמשך שמחה לכולם. Joy is drawn down on everyone. בבחינס וארפאהו ואשלם ניחומים לו ולאבליו. I will heal him, and I will then bring down consolation to him and to all those that are in distress, all those that were crying over him. It's a pasuk from Yeshayahu Navi. Shalidei refuato, when the heart / tzaddik gets healed, consolation comes to all those that were mourning him. Haynu simcha kanal. Now, here he ends it off. Veda, shemizmor letodah, which is basically the Thanksgiving mizmor letodah. Hariu Lashem kol haaretz. So I just want to say like this. This is brought down in the middle of this teaching, but it's not over here, I think. When you want to say a thanks, mizmor letodah, then you say the following words: Hariu laHashem kol haaretz. Rashi tevot. Hariu laHashem kol haaretz halacha. How does the whole world praise HaKadosh Baruch Hu? Through giving thanks over the chidush of Torah, over the das of how to walk in this world. Mizmor LaTodah, Hariu Lashem Kol Haaretz, but he's going to go into it much more. He's going to say like this. Bedashem Mizmor LaTodah hu mesugal lemaksha leiled. If there's chalila, if it happens that there's a woman's going through a very hard difficulty in a state of like not to get pregnant, but to actually have the vlad come out. Dehainu lomar oto mizmor letodah. You should say that mizmor letodah. Mizmor letodah is Rashi Tevot Mem Lamed. Now he's going to take us on a trippy Kabbalistic train through all the different permutations and Rashi Tevos and Gematrias. Mizmor letodah, just those words. Mizmor letodah, Rashi Tevot Mal, which is Gematria 70. Bivchinat Shiv'in kalin shel hayoledet shetzoeget kodem halidah. The Zohar HaKadosh says that there's 70 screams that a woman shries. I guess this is epidurals weren't around in the time. I don't know if women scream during epidurals, but they probably don't, right? Before and after. Let's just say before and after. There's 70, whenever it is, whenever it actually happens, right? The Zohar HaKadosh says there are 70 screams that a woman gives out before. Here he says before. Kodem haleida, kamuva. V'yesh b'mizmor, and in this mizmor letodah, ze kuf samechet. It's 168 otiyot, 168 letters. Kuf samechet hu chesed be'atbash. Okay, do you know what atbash is? It's it comes out to the word chesed in atbash. Chesed is what we learned in the beginning of this teaching, regarding that it's a chesed to mishamesh talmidei chachamim who are bringing down new halachas in the world. Shalidei chesed bechinat halachot haolada benakel, through the chesed that comes down, birthing new ideas into the world, come down smoother. The connection between the chesed to bring down an easier pathway for the child to come out into the world with the least amount of pain for the mother. That all the blood begins to flow back in the right way, because it's true, like you had just mentioned, really, the post-birth is still part of the birth. The woman coming back into this world after experiencing whatever us men, of course, but whatever even any person can imagine what Gan Eden is, it's higher, there's no words for it. To come back into this world is very, very difficult. It's one of the reasons why Chazal Ki'ilu made her Tmeya, right? With the Dam Tameh, Ki'ilu, so she can't come to the Beis HaMikdash. In the Pnimius of Chassidus, it's because she's so godly that even the Beis HaMikdash would be like a cute thing for her after experiencing childbirth. So we say, you're Tmeya, you can't come to the Beis HaMikdash. That's just to avoid a situation of having like a non-Gewalt experience with the Beis HaMikdash, because it's so high. So even coming back down into the world is part of this whole process. So we spoke about the Mizmor LeTodah, it's Rashi Tevot. Mem Lamed is 70 screams, and he also speaks here about the 168 letters, Chesed. And also, Mem Gimel Tevot Bezeh Mizmor. This is very interesting. There are 43 words in this kapitel Tehillim. Ki kishui leiled, there's some kind of, when it's hard to bring birth, to give birth, hu al yedei sheyesh klipa. There's a klipa in the world at the moment that a woman is about to give birth. And this klipa says, gzaru, gam li, gam lach, lo. Now do you have, if you have a Likutei Moharan, do you see where the source is from, this pasuk?
No.
What's the story over here? Does anyone know offhand? What's that? Melachim Aleph, yeah. What's the story over here? This is the story of Shlomo HaMelech and the two women fighting over the baby. Okay? I gave a whole, in shul, like last year or the year before, I talked about my grandmother's needlepoint, yeah. Like it's a very big inyan in our lives, that this story plays a very big role in my family's life, with also because my grandmother made a needlepoint of Mishpat Shlomo when she was a teenager. She hid it underneath the balatot, the tiles, and when the Germans came, they took her and the family, and her whole family was killed, and she jumped off the train, and when she came back to her town in Tarnopol, everything was gone besides this needlepoint that's still hanging in my parents' living room. And the crazy thing is that she ended up marrying Shlomo, my grandfather. So it's like an amazing, no, it's mind-blowing when you think about it. Okay, so what's going, remember, just to refresh our minds, the story was 2 women are fighting and saying, this is my baby. Shlomo HaMelech is in infinite wisdom, came up with the greatest chap to figure out who was the real Ima. And we know how the story ends, but this quote is quoting the wrong, meaning the Ima Rishait, the non-real mother, right? Because she says, Gzaru, cut him up. Gam li, gam lach, lo. Meaning once she said, I won't have him, and you won't have him. So that's how Shlomo HaMelech said, a real mother would never say such a thing. Just like Yidden that say, cut up this land. They're not the real owners of this. They are not connected to the emes of what this land is all about. So, Rebbe Nachman says there's a klipa that always says, right before there's a birth, there's like this, because such light is going to come down to the world. And whenever such tremendous light's about to come out into the world, the other side is going to come in as well. So there's this voice that says, Gzaru, gam li, gam lach lo. So he's saying that there's a klipa. What's the name of the klipa? The Zohar HaKadosh says, it's called Gam. Gam li, gam lach. It's called Gam. There's a name also. Ki Mem Gimel, the 43 words of Mizmor LeTodah. Ki eino rotze sheyetze la'avir ha'olam. The other side is always against children coming to the world because, as Rebbe Nachman explains elsewhere, every time a child comes into the world, the simcha we have over the birth of a child is that every Jewish neshama that comes to the world is coming to teach us another way of how to get close to Hashem. Eventually, that's what they're doing in this world. And the klipas can't handle that stuff. So there's this taina, there's this scream, gam, that says, don't come in. Ki eino rotze sheyetze la'avir ha'olam. U'cheneged zen, and against this, yesh mem gimel tevot bezeh ha'mizmor. That's why there are 43 words in this kapitel Tehillim, keneged bechinas gam, to counter, to neutralize it, exactly. Ki ha'mizmor hazeh hu zgula lemeksha leiled, because this mizmor is known as a zgula for those that have a trouble at childbirth. Okay, I feel thankful that we were able to cover what we had prepared, but you have to understand that to learn Rebbe Nachman, be'emet to learn Rebbe Nachman inside, it's not the shiurim of like, wow. It's more like, okay, there's a train, and it stops at different tachanot, and at different stations, different people come on, and sometimes people come off, but it's a train, and you're not really clear what the destination is, even though you thought you understood where you're going when you got on the train. And sometimes while Rebbe Nachman is teaching us, he's like, it's like, imagine you go on a train from Yerushalayim to Beit Shemesh. And then you go on the train, and then suddenly it decides to like make a right and start going totally north. And now you're traveling towards Tveria. I'm like, wait a second, I have to get to Beersheba, to Beit Shemesh. Rebbe Nachman says, yeah, I know, but there's things we have to pick up on the way. On the way, we're going out of the way. No, it's not like that. That's really learning, going through a whole piece of the Rebbe. And the only way you can do it is if you trust that the Rebbe is in the driver's seat, or I guess in the train it's called the conductor's seat, or I guess, right? So we only did a little bit of this train ride because we only did Aleph, Beis, a little bit of Gimel, and then jumped to the end of Tet in terms of how much is here. There's a lot more here. To tie all this into Chanukah is the point of today's shir, and that's what I just want to do for a few minutes. How did this whole trip begin? How did this whole thing begin? Yemei Chanukah, Yemei Hodeah. Days of Chanukah are days of saying thank you. What brings a person to say thank you? We spoke about it. What's the next world all about? Sha'ashua, the delight of the next world, is about saying thank you. Korban Todah. It's all that's going to be left. When does a person truly feel gratitude and not just know that it's right to say thank you? when there's a da'at that was born out of the distress that they were in. I really sense gratitude when there's a new holada, when there's new birth of knowledge and closeness of Hashem that resulted from the distress that I was in. So on the one hand, I have to say thank you that I was saved. And that's why we run to shul, we say agomos and everything. We bring a korban toda, say thank you, give tzedakah, all those things. The wisdom of the matter, the shemen, the wisdom of the matter of coming out of distress, is by birthing new concepts and ideas of learning about myself. And that's why people, I saw this, it's a weird example, but like, I saw a friend yesterday, and right before Adlokas Neiros, it's like 4:30. He said, "Where are you coming from?" He's like, "I just went to the Mayan in Bahrain." I said, "Are you crazy? It's freeze. It's not freezing. For Los Angelino, this is freezing. Not for you many of you East Coast Hebrew, but it is pretty cold already. That water is freezing over there. So the body happens quite often when you go into those freezing Mayanot, goes into total distress. And you start feeling like this is it. Like, I don't know if it's ever happened to any of you, but sometimes you can be in such cold water that you can't breathe. Your mamish can't breathe. It's very connected to all this as well. I said to him, how did you do such a thing? He's like, I spent years of mastering the art of breathing. And that's the only way that I can go into these places, because I do achanas, my preparation of proper breathing, thus creating the proper moisture that's being produced in my body, which Rebbe Nachman calls as the natural oils. The body enables me to even lechatchila go into places that in the past may have caused me great distress, but now I know how to go into them. Let's face it. The Gemara says, Noach lo la'adam shelo nivra. It would be much more comfortable for us had we not been created. You know why? Because this world is like a freezing mikvah. It is. This world is crazy. This world is beautiful and it's crazy. And there's so many things in our experience in this world that causes us to go into deep distress and for the blood to go wild and all these different things. The chap of this world is picking up as many reminders as possible and to give birth to many new ideas, chidushei halacha, a chidush of how to walk the streets of the world, how to walk through my trials and tribulations, not to forget along the way what I've been through, how I learned how to walk through them, and to continue to walk with chokhmah. Chanukah is the time that there's this oraganuz that comes down. It's this light that comes down and tells us, remember everything you went through? Look, you're back at the menorah, you're lighting with your family. Don't forget. Don't just move on. I mean, move on, but with the das. So Rebbe Nachman ends off this whole teaching. He says, sometimes it's so hard to bring out das from experiences, meaning holada chadasha, new birth. I just want to get over it. I want to get through with it. No, that's not why you go through tzaras in this world. You go through tzaras in this world, Chalila, it shouldn't happen to anybody, but that seems to be the gzeira of this world, to bring down new das of what it means to go through pain and how to get closer to Hashem through each experience. So therefore, I want to give us all a bracha to be able to truly say thank you to Hashem, to live in a state of thank you, because even not knowing, if I didn't know any of you, and the little that I know any of you, I know so little. I can't imagine what each of you have as a Megillah of Nisyonos in this world. But you're here, and it's another Chanukah. And it's another opportunity to say, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, thank you, and please don't let me forget who I became through each Nisayon. Please don't let me forget about the shemen that was produced, the oil that was produced through each Nisayon that I went through. And then I take that with me, and I'm much more connected to Olam Haba while being in Olam Hazeh. And that's what we need. We need to feel connected to what it's going to be like in the next world. The Da'at Elokim, the closeness to Hashem, which is all we really, really, really want. It's all we really want. That's why in the first Ma'amar of Rebbe Nachman on Chanukah, he's saying on Chanukah, you have access to what you have access to ask Hashem for what you really, really want. And that is to light my soul on fire. Light my soul on fire with Da'as Hashem, with Kirvas Elokim. Okay, I know this was a lot, but Baruch Hashem, we jumped into this amazing orchard. Next week is still Chanukah, and the kids are off. So we want to have shir next week. We'll continue with this year and other shirim, Be'ez Hashem, the week after. A freilich in Chanukah, everybody. Zava, thank you for sharing that. Thank you, Hashem.